There exists a magical town situated on a plateau looking down a stunningly beautiful canyon containing one of the largest collections of breathtaking waterfalls you will ever see. This place looks like something out of the storybooks and was an area known for the production of apples. This is why this town has different foods revolving around this fruit, including some incredibly tasty apple pastries like this one with an entire apple inside. This town has become a very popular tourist destination because of its incredible location and stunning nature, as well as some of the most beautiful mosaics you will ever see in this country. So join me as we discover Zacatlan de las Manzanas in an area that is fairly unknown to many outside the country and honestly almost feels like a piece of paradise on earth. This place has so many beautiful restaurants and mouth-watering local delicacies. Not to mention some very delicious locally produced artisan drinks like this one made from a flower, and even cultural entertainment showing you the vibrant soul of the city. And more than anything, with a short drive down one of the nearby canyons, you get to explore one of the many stunning waterfalls that happens to be one of the most beautiful I have ever seen. To get to Zacatlan, we start our journey in Puebla, which is basically the fourth largest city in Mexico. Because of the importance that Puebla has had in the country's history, this city has one of the largest colonial centers with a lot of beautiful architecture. Puebla also happens to be surrounded by 3 large volcanoes, one of which is one of the largest active volcanoes in the world at almost 18,000 feet. Aside from the natural and historical beauty, this city also has a very big modern side, as it is one of the fastest developing cities in the country. Puebla has a lot to offer, but we will leave that for another episode. To get to Zacatlan, we first go to Puebla's main bus station, which is called Capu and is located north of the city's central historic district. Here, I purchased my ticket for the roughly 2.5-hour ride, utilizing the bus line ATA. Shortly after, it was time to board. And unfortunately the bus had a big crack in the front window. So I made the best with what I had, and after exiting the bus station, we headed north towards Puebla's main east and west highway. This highway now has a second level which serves as express lanes from what I understand. And to be expected, you do get views of the imposing volcanoes surrounding the city, like this view of Iztaccíhuatl to the left through the columns. After traveling a few miles on the main east and west highway out of Puebla, we finally transition onto the more minor highway taking us north towards Zacatlan. Just like many places in Mexico, we see construction as the country is expanding its highway system. We finally break free of the traffic caused by the construction and travel through the south central highlands of the country, which can reach elevations of 7,000 feet or more. As a general rule, the scenery will become greener as we get closer to Zacatlan and the tropical Gulf Coast area. Shortly after leaving Puebla, we enter the state of Tlaxcala, which is considered to be the smallest state in Mexico. At this point, we also get a better view of the smallest out of the 3 large volcanoes surrounding Puebla, which is La Malinche. At over 14,000 feet, this volcano is still quite impressive, comparable to other massive volcanoes on the continent, such as Washington's famous Mount Rainier. At this point, we are utilizing this highway to go around the city of Tlaxcala, which also happens to be the capital of the state of Tlaxcala. Shortly after Tlaxcala, and about an hour after leaving Puebla, we approach the city of Apizaco. Here, the highway starts to widen, and it seems like they have done a lot of work recently on this section of the road. And Apizaco is almost halfway to Zacatlan time-wise, being that we are less likely to hit traffic from this point on. We finally exit the highway and enter Apizaco for our first official stop since leaving Puebla. I take advantage of this opportunity to purchase some snacks from people entering the bus during the stop. These snacks can range from your typical chips and soda to more homemade looking foods.
10 pesos. 20 pesos for these cookies.
After having what seemed to be homemade coconut ice cream and cookies, I was now ready for the second leg of the trip. This part of the journey will take roughly an hour and a half and is more rural and scenic in my opinion as we approach Zacatlan. Along the way, just like many places in Mexico, we see heavily armed security forces. About an hour before arriving to Zacatlan, we pass through the Pueblo Mágico, or magical town, of Tlaxco. And Pueblo Mágicos are very special towns in Mexico that have been recognized by the government to have some sort of significance, usually historical or cultural, and are some of the most beautiful towns, in my opinion. At this point, we're about 50 kilometers from Zacatlan, which is roughly 30 miles. This is essentially the last half an hour of the trip, and we go through one more mountain pass before arriving to another Pueblo Mágico by the name of Chignahuapan, which is the last stop before arriving to Zacatlan. It is common practice here to make 3 lanes out of a 2-lane road, so you will often see cars driving on the shoulder to allow other vehicles to pass in the middle of the road along the double yellow line. After about 2 hours of traveling, we arrived to Chignahuapan, which is almost like a twin city to Zacatlan and the last stop before arriving into Zacatlan. Shortly after Chignahuapan, we finally enter the beginning of the Zacatlan area where it really starts to green up and we start to see touristic elements. We also get to enjoy the last part of the program that was playing for us in the bus. As we enter the outskirts of Zacatlan, not only does a vivid green vegetation contrast so much with the rest of the trip, but it is also the first time that we see an abundance of palm trees as we get closer to the tropical Gulf Coast. Not to mention that we get our first clear view of the lush green mountains surrounding the canyons near Zacatlan. And as usual, the bus driver is still driving on the line to allow other drivers to pass in the middle of the road. We happen to pass by a factory of the famous Bimbo brand of food products, and the road starts to become windy as we drive next to the canyons near Zacatlan. After about 2.5 hours of traveling, we finally arrived to Zacatlan's small but cute bus station in a very elevated part of the city. As soon as I arrived in the bus station, I noticed a small restaurant cooking what seemed to be homemade food, so I decided to check it out. From what I was told, they were cooking Zacatlan-style gorditas, so I decided to buy one and take it with me to my hotel. And as I exit the bus station to grab a taxi, I am almost overwhelmed by the natural beauty of this area. I was finally on my way to the hotel, and the taxi driver was explaining to me that the reason why the name of the city is Zacatlan de las Manzanas, or Zacatlan of the apples, is because this area was known to have many apple orchards that have disappeared over time because of recent developments. After this brief taxi ride, I finally arrived to my hotel, which was a very small hotel on the second floor of a building containing only 4 rooms. The hotel was quite economical, and I have to say it was in a fantastic location. So let's check out the room.
It's what, about $40 got me here in Zacatlan. Great location. I'm gonna put the food that I bought from the station down to give you an idea of what we see here. Like a little balcony that gives you a view of the city. About 2 blocks from the main plaza. So guys, I am loving both the weather and the nature. The nature is so beautiful, as you guys will see. And of course, you can definitely tell it's a tourist town because of the little tour buses. Pretty simple but nice bathroom. And as you guys saw earlier, I did buy one of the gorditas Zacatlan style from the bus station just because it looked good. It looked homemade. The lady was making it right there. Very, very nice lady. Comes with cheese, chuleta, which is what you see on top, some butter, and also some lettuce. So let's check it out. Looks good. Again, it's nothing complex. It's just that it just tastes very natural, very homemade. Again, one of the main reasons I love coming to this country.
After having this delicious gordita, it was now time to check out the town, starting with the main plaza, which was just a few blocks away. And just like other Pueblo Mágicos, you find beautiful cafes and restaurants nestled in historic-looking buildings.
We're turning onto Calle Josefa Ortiz de Dominguez.
At about 2 blocks from the hotel, we reached one of the most important landmarks of the city, and that is Parroquia Franciscano de San Francisco de Asís, which was a temple built in the mid-1500s, making it one of the oldest in the Americas. In front, we have Plaza Santa Cecilia, which is adjacent to the main plaza of the city. My initial goal was to discover the main plaza next, but as I was crossing Plaza Santa Cecilia, I noticed these cute-looking vendors, so I decided to check them out.
What's up?
At the tail end of these vendors, I reach another notable landmark of this city, and that is Parroquia San Pedro. And being that I tend to do these walks in a very spontaneous manner, I kept on walking in the same direction and realized that these vendors actually led into the market area. Enjoy raw footage of the market area of Zacatlan before moving on to the picturesque main plaza, as well as the breathtaking waterfall.
And as I have said before, I love to check out the market areas, to feel the pulse of the culture. I feel like there's more authenticity in these areas. So enjoy. Chapulines, huh? For those who don't know, chapulines, if I'm not mistaken, are grasshoppers. This is a big delicacy. More in the south. The more south you go, it becomes a bigger deal. Oh, some of that fruit looks really, really good. Oh, this is actually a pretty big market area for a city of this size. Even fresh chicken. Or what looks like to be marinated chicken, maybe?
Lleve su quesito fresco de Puebla. Sí, ¿quieres algo?
Des amis, pas de famille, en profite public, un avis.
Everybody's getting ready for the holiday spirit. Maybe not everybody, but a good number. I have to say, it feels pretty cool here, even more so than Puebla. Of course, we are higher up. This is why you have more pine vegetation than tropical vegetation. Wow, I never imagined this market area to be so big.
After taking a quick stroll in the market area, it was now time to check out the very beautiful and picturesque historical plaza of Zacatlan. Though I only had a few blocks to get to the plaza, I decided to take a slightly different route back. This way I could check out different streets along the way, which is something I usually do to see as many things possible when visiting a new place. As I approach the main plaza, the street gives way to a stone-paved pedestrian walkway. And after walking one very long block along this pedestrian walkway, we finally reach the beautiful and rather large historical plaza of Zacatlan de las Manzanas. As soon as I reached the corner of the plaza, I saw a beautiful coffee shop that piqued my interest, especially being that I was quite thirsty for a drink after all the walking I had done around town.
And this is an example of what I was talking about, how there are so many beautiful coffee shops in this country, especially in the Pueblo Mágicos, because they preserve them so well and make them look very cute and inviting. I'm almost seduced to go inside, but I want to take advantage as much of the daylight as I can. Look at that, they even have made good use of the second level.
Just like many coffee shops that I've been to in this country, you could definitely see that there was a lot of artistic creativity utilized for the interior design of this place. Even the bathroom was cute and rustic, and with this, I purchased a matcha and continue exploring.
Guys, I was trying to be strong, but I couldn't help it. But you know what that means? I'm going to have to get another matcha. Gives me an excuse to check out another coffee shop in this town. The main plaza is quite beautiful, as they usually are. Every plaza in every Pueblo Mágico has a slightly different flavor to it. Like this one, for example, if you look, the gazebo is very wide. Usually they're higher and more narrow. So this is quite unique here. In that sense, I don't think I've seen a gazebo that wide, at least not recently.
A matcha cheers to one of the most beautiful towns in this region. And with that, it was time to check out one of the most iconic things you can find in this plaza. And that is the double-sided flower clock, which was built by a local company that is supposedly one of the first clock makers in Latin America. And not too far off, I found a lady selling what seemed to be authentic apple pastries. And if you can believe it, she was selling each of the pastries for 30 pesos, which is roughly $1.50 at the time.
All right, guys, so I got two different things of apple inside. You have to, because this is Zacatlan de Manzanas, which means Zacatlan of apples. So from what I understand, this area used to have a lot of apple trees, apple orchards, however you want to say it. Of course, over time, they cut down a lot of these trees, or practically almost all of them, from what I was told, to build homes, to develop, unfortunately, but it's still known for it. So big part of the culture and the history of this area.
Just like other Pueblo Mágicos, Zacatlan too had its touristic sign, which is a great place to take a picture. After admiring this beautiful sign, I decided to continue walking around to explore the city a little bit more before heading out to the waterfall. And as I was walking around, I became anxious and I had to try the pastry that I just purchased, especially being that food in these Pueblo Mágicos tend to be very delicious.
Although I'm almost finished with this pastry, one of the things that I really liked is it did not feel very sweet. The filling was just right. It wasn't too sweet, too bland. It was honestly one of the best pastries I've had made with apple. At an elevation of roughly 6,700 feet, this area definitely is one of the cooler towns in the country. And for those who like the cooler weather, this is definitely a place you might want to check out.
Stay tuned for the next episode as we grab a taxi for a short trip out of town and visit one of the most beautiful ecological parks with some of the most stunning views in the region. If you're a lover of nature and hidden gems across the globe, then this next episode is the episode for you. Especially being that this park contains one of the highest waterfalls in North America. We will even get to explore another part of the park that is arguably equally as beautiful as the waterfall. Aside from this, we will finish off in a very stunning and colorful restaurant that is representative of the region with a very iconic dish. We will also discover other captivating and stunning sights in town, including a massive collection of some of the most beautiful mosaics you will ever see.